So biceps in its shortest position. But alternatively, the tricep is going to be in its longest position, so the triceps stretched there. Then if you come back this way, the triceps is going to be the shortened position, but the biceps is going to be in its stretched position. So what I think about when I'm training them is I think about getting an exercise that's targeting the biceps into more of a shortened position, and then an exercise that's targeting it more into a lengthened position, and then same for the triceps. So we'll start that. So we'll go with the cables. Cables probably a good place to start.
I prefer training arms because I feel the burn.
Yeah.
But I never get any rewards from it.
I just like looking in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, look at that. Got a tight t-shirt on for arm day. You just got to find a small enough t-shirt, you're fine. It's nothing to do with how much muscle you've got. An extra small t-shirt does you wonders, John. Right. So this is one I quite like to use for getting the bicep into more of a shortened position. So we're using the bench as a support here for our elbow, and then we've got the cable, and we're just trying to keep our shoulder, elbow and wrist all in line as we go through the movement. Now, targeting it right into that shortened position can be quite difficult, because there it's going to be hardest at that point, and it is actually going to get a little bit easier there. But this is close enough. This will do the job. So this is quite a nice motion for it. But again, it's all about that alignment. We're getting all these things lining up nicely there. It doesn't matter where the rest of your body is, as long as they're all in line. Do you want to give that a try? Yeah. Nice and controlled. Same thing again. We're taking that slight stretch at the slight pause at the bottom, sorry, and now squeezing back up. Good. We almost want to like try and squeeze into there first before we even move. So like contract first, and then pull up. Good. Almost like just twist your shoulder around that a little bit. You see how your arms want to like come over a little bit at the top. That might solve that problem a little bit. Not really. Quite easy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put more weight on.
Comfortable with that. You can try a bit more.
It's a bit more like it though, isn't it? Good, strong. Again, you get to that point where the cable's furthest away from your elbow, and that's going to be the hardest point. So it's kind of like that midpoint, isn't it? Good. Now we're working though. That's it. And again, strong. Good. That's it. Drive the elbow into the bench. Use that for stability. And again, come on, big push. Strong. Good. You got two more. Easy, two more. Come on. Control as we're coming down. Good. And keep it controlled. Keep it controlled. One more. Come on. One more. Good. Take a wee rest, and we better do the other arm. It's on to note here, right? The shoulder should be that little bit forward. The shoulder's in front of the body this time, because the next curl we're going to do is going to be with the shoulder behind the body, or the upper arm behind the body, so to speak. How's that weight feel? Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's hold it.
So really like dig your elbow into there, stretch it out. Good.
It's that last bit.
Yeah, so again, that's where it's going to be hardest, because the cable's furthest away from the elbow, so it is dropping off a little bit when you get into that last little bit. You're fine. Strong, easy, good. What happens is, like, see when you put your palms forward like that and you do like a curling motion, you see how the hinge is like, it's slightly different from person to person. It's not, let's keep going with that. It's not just a straight up hinge, you know, it's like an offset hinge sort of thing. So like everyone's got their own way their elbow wants to hinge, and it's just like making sure the exercise kind of follows that, making sure this cable's in line with where her elbow wants to hinge. Otherwise it's not going to be great for the joint. So obviously, Naomi, not every gym's got one of these bars. If you wanted to create the same thing, you could take like, see that's...
I am moving, Jim.
Yeah, to be fair. But like if you want to create the same thing as this, you can just put the D handles over one of them, or you can buy yourself a bar. To be fair, these are a bit of a fucking rip-off. This was 70 quid, and it's a bit of metal with some holes in it. I mean, we can do the same thing on here. So again, it's that position of elbows forward, upper arm in front of the body, and we can do our curls like that. So I'm taking a kind of staggered stance, stretching out, keeping my upper arm in front of me, and that'll do a very similar thing as well. So that's another option to do the same thing. The stability aspect of it might impact things to some degree, but that's another one you can do. And just while we're on this forward position, I'll show you one on the dumbbells and bench, elbows forward, and then we're creating that same sort of position there. So targeting the bicep into more of a shortened position there. And that's obviously a lot harder here. Pretty easy here, I can hold it there all day. A lot harder up there. So that's another one we can do for that as well. I want the cable to kind of be horizontal to like where my hand is there at the start. So I don't know if that might be about right for me. Might need a little bit higher. I'm not that tall, mind you. And this would be hard, to be fair. This would be a hard variation. 1, 2, 3. Yes, you're right. Which is going to be better though, to be fair. So I can't even see in the mirror, but I mean, that's close enough. Like, it's almost like kind of horizontal there. So my chest is up, my shoulders are back this time, my upper arm's behind my torso. And this is going to be a lot harder in this position here, in the stretch position, and a lot easier in this position. So between like those exercises we just done and doing this, you've kind of worked the bicep through the full range. Step forward so there's some tension, but like pull your arms forward a little bit, like start from there, chest up, shoulders back, keep your arms straight at the bottom, like elbows straight, and now curl up from there. And just keeping, so we're keeping all of this still, elbow and shoulders staying still. So let's try and keep that back there. I'm just going to keep my arm there for you. There you go. So it's even a skill in itself to hold that position. It's quite hard. It's not something like when I've had like beginners in the gym, you try to get them to do that. That's what they struggle with, is just keeping their elbow and shoulder locked. But John's doing good there. It's a hard variation, isn't it? Especially right at the start, that stretch position. See here, that's more of a stretch rather than a pump compared to the other one. Do you want to try it out, Naomi? So shoulder blades back, squeeze shoulder blades back, and then that's it. Keep all this stuff still. It's just moving from the elbow. And as I say, when I was talking about the way that your elbow hinges, when you've got the cables, they'll pretty much follow where your elbow wants to go. So a lot of the time it makes them nicer on the elbows, like cable variations are nicer on the elbows. Just keep the chest up, just keep poking the chest up. There we go, good, strong. It's not an easy thing to spot anyone on this as well, eh? I think you're doing fine though, good.
My facial expressions.
You should see mine when I'm training, they're terrible. Good. Yeah, you're in your element with the glute stuff, aren't you? Strong, good. You don't need to. So that would be my start position for this. And you can just do the same thing with a dumbbell, except the only difference now is with the cables, we had them set up in a way where this was the hardest position and this was the easiest position. But now with the dumbbells, that's actually going to be easy because the dumbbell's like right underneath your elbow, and that's going to be the hardest bit right in the middle. So it's kind of the same, we're getting the stretch, but we're not targeting it in the stretch position, if that makes sense. So just because we're getting into that position doesn't mean we're actually working it there, if that makes sense. But that essentially is getting you a kind of stretch position on the bicep as well to some degree. I couldn't get on the cables to do that exercise, right? And I'm like, how do I target the stretch position without the cables? And I just brought the bench really far back, and I kind of like done it like this. I don't recommend it, but like that was my way around it. But it felt like it was quite a high risk exercise. It felt like if something was going to go snap, that's when it was going to fucking happen down there. But there's loads of ways to create the same thing. It's just knowing how to do it, I suppose, and like knowing where the emphasis is. But you can feel it. Like, you know, when you're doing a dumbbell lateral raise, it's fucking harder here, and it's a lot easier here, isn't it? So it's like, how can you turn that dumbbell lateral raise into something that's hard in this position? Well, you can go onto your side and you can do one like that, and all of a sudden, actually, round about here's the hardest point. Or you can lie right on your side, and then obviously the start's the hardest point. So it's like, yeah, you can do the same thing, but in a very different way, which I get is probably quite confusing right now. I'll show you his triceps, and then we'll see if you've got any other questions after that, and we'll kind of finish up. So triceps, to get them shortened, we need shoulders back, arms extended. So unless there's something I don't know about that someone else has thought of, I don't think you can do that with a dumbbell. I think it's going to have to be the cables for that as well. So is that these things are pretty damn short, right? And what happens is your tricep is trying to pull your arm down like that. So we get these ropes and we're pulling down, but actually, see when I get to that position, I'm pushing out more than I'm pushing down. So, you know, the most effective way to pull this is straight down. But how effective is that at pulling that rope down? So it's just actually getting harder and harder and harder at the bottom But it's also not a very good tricep exercise at this point because all I'm doing is pushing out to the side. It's almost like the side of my shoulder is almost we're almost trying to do like a side raise at the bottom. There's like some sort of weird variation of that. Yeah, another thing as well, like because it's so short, then your shoulders have to like hunch in too. So the solution, yeah, we'll get to them, definitely. So the solution, 2 ropes. We've now got more length, we can keep our shoulders back, and yes, we're still pushing out a little bit at the bottom, but nowhere near as much as we were before. So it's the same thing, just a different way of doing it with 2 ropes. You do get long ropes as well. Another option that's going to be even better, there it is, it's using this thing, worth every penny of that 70 quid. So what you can do, again, ideally we'd have shorter ropes for this because now these are a bit too long for this, but now we've absolutely removed that element of pushing out altogether. And this weighs about as much as the weight that I've got on there, but we're just purely pushing down with this variation. So just want to try that. Just give you a wee sample. You going first, John? I'm picking my weight based on who's going first. But it's purely just a push down now rather than push out at the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's weird.
And look, your shoulders are like just staying nice and kind of in position. You're not like rounding them forwards or anything either. Looks quite light for you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But it's more just to get a feel for it anyway. You probably need that set one higher as well, just so that like, that was me setting up just wee short RSA, but just so that you're like not like meeting the top again, like you're keeping tension on the whole time. So once you're down there, upper arm and elbow, so we're keeping them, we'll go back down, just do what you've done again, just do a rep, and then just keep like your upper arm and elbow here, if that makes sense. And then slowly back up. It's like you've got a big drill piece through your elbow, right? And you're just rotating around that, so they can't move from there. And push down. Good, perfect. And just keep those elbows in place, don't let them get pulled back up. Control as we're coming back up. That's it. Strong. Again, more control with these, keep them there. Now we're working. This is getting it long now in this position. So your overhead, what would you usually do for your overhead stuff?
Cable on.
From the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with the bottom one, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like, there's no way I can like get myself in that position. I can if I like overarch my back and I lean back, but I can't like keeping my kind of spine neutral. I've no chance. And a lot of people can't get into that position. But what actually does a similar job is actually just that position. So upper arm kind of horizontal to the floor. That's like almost as overhead as we want to get. Or need to get, sorry, not as we want to get. But like, don't get me wrong, if you've got the mobility to get up there, cool, so that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. And you'll feel a deeper stretch there, but your tricep will just about be as long in this position as it will be in this position.
Have I been doing it wrong?
Not necessarily, no.
I've been doing it that way.
No, not necessarily. Like, there's nothing wrong with that if you've got the mobility to do it. Like, it's just that a lot of people, like, again, keep my, see if I don't tighten my abs, I'll lean back and I'll get into that position, but then I'm overextending my spine and then that might cause some issues there. But if I'm actually like keeping my core tight, that's as far as I'm getting. So for me, that's going to be probably a more sensible option. Does the same thing, The problem there in that is, like, as soon as you get a lot of weight on that, the lack of stability. So John's got the bench there and we'll use that. This is going to be low for you though, that's the only thing. Like, this is going to not be the right height for you. So you can set the bench up in front of you. It's not very in front of me, is it? And you can lean on the top of the bench. And then we're just trying to create a position again where the wrist and the elbow and shoulder are all kind of aligned and the cable's in line with that. And now we've added support at the joint, which is going to give us the ability to produce a bit more force. For you, John, who's been a little bit taller, I don't know if you could just set up on there. So you could pull this one, and then you could lean on that, and that could create some stability for you as well. But again, like, your variation, there's nothing wrong with that really. It's lie back on the bench. You're starting with your arms directly above your shoulders, but then you just pull back slightly. And then you bend the elbows from there, down into that stretch position, and then extend back up from there. And this is a pretty nice exercise. Again, we're getting a lot of work in that stretch position, and then it drops off at the top. So again, the tough bit with this one is keeping all this stuff still. So pushing with my hands, you come up and just try and keep the elbows and the shoulders locked in place. So like keep your elbows up there. Like,
Here?
yeah, so like pushing with my hands a little bit and then slowly come down. And then push up, that's it. I'll take the training wheels off. Good, just flatten your lower back a little bit, don't arch for that one.
I can't flatten my back.
Well,
Problem.
actively push down. I actually put my feet up on the bench when I do this, and
Yeah, I might have
that
to,
does it, yeah. Yeah, it's less to think about when you do that as well. How they feeling, John? They're hard work, aren't they?
It's my right arm, it's not strong.
Yeah, it's feeling before you left, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's